Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
What's going on, everybody? Yes, this week I didn't forget to turn on the mixing board. And you're listening to Tiger Claw Radio, and my goodness, what a week. It's going to be good stuff. What do we got lined up music-wise? We got some Aloe Island Posse. We got some Grrr and Modern Charms. 3 really awesome tracks. Got some good failbag stuff coming up. Played a lot of games with Alex Swingle, which is something I've been enjoying very much. He made the comment when we were playing last night. He was like, I'm enjoying this new CF that actually plays the games. And you know what, Swingle? Me too. Got some good van casting, which I feel like went really well this week. I feel like it's a really strong one. So let's kick it off with Aloe Island Posse. Now, I may have played this one on the show before, but this one I listened to quite a bit when I'm at the gym. And last week, Saturday, I was on the treadmill. I was trying to push it to 4 miles, but I didn't quite make it. And every once in a while, the right song comes on, and I'm not expecting it, and it hits, and just the blood like rushes, and it takes over, and then I can suddenly a lot of energy comes out of nowhere. Well, this was the song that did that. It's called Extra Credits. It's from Aloe Island Posse. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. I'm a cop.
Are you Fujiyama?
Yes, I am. Who are you?
I'm a cop.
Oh my gosh. Watching that load into Audacity, just making sure the levels sound right. I'm watching everything under the sun peak. The levels are just like solid red. Probably ought to turn that one down a little bit, but you know what? I just can't do that to Aloe Island Posse. Such an awesome track. Like, awesome doesn't even begin to describe it, in my opinion. And it's not very long. None of the Aloe Island Posse songs are long at all. But, ooh, man. Everybody loves Young Bay. Young Bay's the one who is kind of like the king of the future funk tunes. Nah, son. Young Bay has nothing on Aloe Island Posse. Nothing, in my opinion. All right, so we're going to turn back the clock. You might remember the beginning of last week was a holiday. We had President's Day. A lot of people were home from their jobs. The kids were home from school. We had a great time. So we're going to turn back the clock to Tuesday morning. This is Tuesday morning, driving to work after a long weekend. We went over some Fear 3 and some other stuff. Let's go to the van. Morning, everybody. It's time for the Vancast. Tuesday morning. We had Monday off because of President's Day, so I hope you guys enjoyed the long weekend. And it's a frosty morning. We got a winter advisory for the next 2 days. Jeez Louise, they're talking about it's gonna snow and then it's gonna ice over right after it snows. So we got that to look forward to. In the meantime, I got to play some good games over the last couple days. I started playing through Fear 3 on Steam with Alex Swingle, which has been pretty good fun. We beat the tar out of Resident Evil 5, and we talked about moving on from that to Fear 3 or Sacred 3, which is another possibility. But we're going to do Fear 3 first. So this is one of those games that I've had forever and a day. It's just been in my Steam catalog for so long, along with the other Fear games, mind you, and I just never played it. So it was nice to actually get it out and give it a shot. Oh, hang on, boys. Hang on, boys. Bear with me. I'm stopped at a stoplight right now. Stopped at a stoplight and I got a cop next to me. Now it's legal to talk on my phone as long as it's on speaker. But we've got speed trap cameras in this town, so the cops can't pull people over for speed tickets anymore. So I worry that they get more creative with reasons to pull people over. What was I talking about? Yeah, the Fear series. Yeah, so Fear 3, we tried. We're probably about 3 or 4 hours in. And it's been fun, man. It's been a little Rudy Tooty point and shooty. A little generic, I guess. I was talking to Swingle about this last night. It feels very much like an Xbox game. Ba-boom! Shooting all the bad guys! And moving on to the next room. And when I get there, I'm gonna kill the bad guys too. And that's Fear 3. The story is a garbage throwaway story. And the cutscenes are, quite frankly, painful to watch. But it's been fun to play. I'm playing through as the ghost guy, so I can possess people. I can possess the bad guys and then kind of like lift them up in the air using like a soul force kind of deal. And it's been pretty good. I've enjoyed the mechanics. I don't think I would ever play through it solo. I think if I was playing through it solo, I'd probably give it a try for an hour and then it'd go back on the shelf. But it's been fun to play through it multiplayer. There's really good multiplayer potential there. So that's been one thing. Fear 3 has been one thing. In addition to that, I'm preparing for the next Tiger Score, which means a couple things. Going over scores that have been submitted, and playing other games, to collect new scores for, the next issue. So, the last week, or last month, the game that everybody played and submitted was pinball. Black box pinball from the NES. I've talked about this on the air before. And it seems to be a universal problem that once you hit 100,000 points in the original pinball, the paddles just disappear. It blows my mind. I never knew that. So, now if you remember, the score that I submitted for Black Box Pinball was 98,000 points. I feel compelled to hit that 100,000 mark now. Because I want to experience this. As for next month, though, I got out 1942 this morning on the NES. Started playing that. It's one of these games that I've known about forever. I can't remember the last time I honestly gave it a shot. I think even back in my younger days when I came across it, I don't think I played it seriously. I think I put it in, played it for 10 seconds, and was like, okay, I guess this is a generic shmup, and then I kind of moved on. But I played... excuse me. I played 1942. Tomorrow morning I'm going to play 1943. And we'll see. One of those two games is going to make it into the Tiger score. Based on that. I have a feeling that it's going to be 1943. I love the game. I love the setting, you know. Driving a big prop plane, shooting down World War II planes, or, you know, biplanes and stuff, or whatever they flew in those days. And it was a good time. I enjoyed it. As far as the score is concerned, I was a little concerned that at least with 1942, it was a little samey to play through. Like, I don't know how compelling it would be to pursue like a multi-month, you know, high score follow-up battle. But it was fun. It was fun, and it was something, you know, relatively new for me. So it's an example of how running something like the Tiger score can really enrich you, if you let it. So that was cool. So the lineup for Tiger score number 2 right now is Raiden 4, 1942, and Black Box Pinball for the NES. Those 3 games are my lineup thus far, but we'll see. I want to add 2 more. Plus, I want to see what other high score battles are going on and report on those, and then we'd have an issue. So that should come out early March. It's either going to be March 1st or March 2nd. I might wait until March 2nd so that I can get my references right. At the bottom of the page this past month, I did like, okay, here's the Cartridge Club, what they're playing, and here's what they're playing on Retro Gaming over on Reddit. I think I might have done those a month behind, so by the time it came out and actually got in people's hands, they were already outdated. I might wait a day so that I can make sure that those are correct and up to date, but we'll see. I don't know. Still working that out. What are we at now? We're at 7, almost 8 minutes in. Well, that's about it. I gotta go do my day at work. It's first day back after a long weekend. But so I'm ready to go into the office, to be perfectly honest. I'm gonna go knock this out, and I'll see you guys back in the studio. You know what sucks about that is once I was done playing 1942, I had a text file open on my desktop that had a bunch of scores on it, several runs of 1942, and that was going to be the basis for my scoreboard. Well, my computer crashed, and I didn't save the file, and all the scores were lost. So that was kind of a devastating loss. So I'm going to be playing some 1942 for the NES after I finish recording tonight. As a matter of fact, you know what I think might be fun, guys? And let me know your interest in this. I've tried a little bit with streaming in the past, and it hasn't really gone well. I've done... I did open a Twitch channel, so I do have a Twitch channel. I used it a little bit, though I haven't in months and months. I tried streaming MS-DOS games early in the morning. I was playing through Jill of the Jungle, and I can't remember what else I played, but Jill of the Jungle is what I spent the most time on. And I had this idea to do some streaming of some chill basic games, and I could play my cassette tapes, because a lot of people, when they do their streaming, they like, let's listen to music and we'll stream, you know, depending on what it is you're watching. So I had this idea that we could chill out, listen to tapes, and play some games. I think it would be fun to try streaming again, but I honestly don't know I don't know which the best format would be on. Like I'm kind of leaning towards streaming on YouTube rather than on Twitch because of the way it's set up. It's a little bit more integrated into the channel, and then I could just post the streams if you guys wanted to go and watch them. I don't know. I've watched a lot more streams on YouTube than I have on Twitch, but I know I'm alone on that one. All the streaming people like Twitch instead. I used to watch a guy who would stream about Magic the Gathering. He goes by the Magic Historian now, but he used to go by Perp. And I watched that guy. He would stream in the mornings, and I would watch him. When I had a free minute. I enjoyed those, but it's been a while. I don't know. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent. So we're gonna bring things back around. This next track is the opening track from Modern Charms. All right. So here's the thing about Modern Charms. Modern Charms is the band that got me into Bandcamp. Now I'm huge into Bandcamp now. I get a lot of vaporwave and synth pop and that kind of stuff from Bandcamp. But I went looking for, the term was shoegaze. I didn't know what shoegaze meant. One of the guys at work was like, hey, yeah, I listen to shoegaze. It's like alternative music or alternative rock. It sounds a lot like the way rock and roll used to sound in the 90s. And I went looking for it, and what I found was this band, Modern Charms. Now, they have a 6-song album out, self-entitled, several years old. And I thought it was awesome. So I bought the cassette tape, and I'm thinking about doubling back and buying the vinyl because it's become somewhat of a favorite of mine. And we're going to play the lead-off track to the Modern Charms album. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
We'll forget
That's Modern Charms, and it's a much it's a big departure from what I usually play here on Tiger Claw Radio. I get that. I like to stick to electronic music for the most part, and it goes back and forth between like chip tunes and future funk and a little bit of vaporwave, but not much. And this is like alternative rock. I mean, that album sounds to me like it could have come out in 1997. 1997, 1998. It sounded pretty far from grunge. It kind of sounds like the pop bands that were coming out around the time grunge was popular. There's like the poppier, softer bands that were like getting big at the time. I remember that sort of thing being played on the radio quite a lot. This was back when the FM radio was really like the place to be as far as I was concerned, because I didn't have access to the internet, and even if you did, in the 90s, you could download music, but it was a much different affair than it is now. But this was before that. This was. I'm thinking back to when I was like really little, like 11 and 12 years old, and I had my Walkman, and I would put it on, and I'd lay down in bed at night, and that was like watching TV for me. I would go back and forth between DC 101, which is our local rock station out of the DC area, and they broadcast, I think, a really wide net. They have a wide service range. So I'd go back and forth between DC 101. There was another channel called WHFS, or another station rather. And that one has actually gone under since then. They became like Latin music, I think, in the mid 2000s. So I'd go back and forth between those two. And HFS would syndicate Loveline. You guys remember Loveline? Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew and all that stuff. So I was hearing Loveline like the day after it had been recorded, but it was like at the time that those shows were new. So I would sit in bed and I'd listen to Loveline, and then I'd flip back to DC 101 when the commercials would come on, and then occasionally there was another station, 107.3, which is like the mix station. Now they do like top 40 tunes, but back in those days, a lot of 80s, like 70s and 80s songs, and on Saturday nights they would do retro Saturday night, and it was all disco. So I would sit in bed on Saturday night and listen to disco music on my Aiwa Walkman. It wasn't actually a Walkman, because Walkman is a trademarked brand, and this was, I think that's how you say the name, Aiwa or Aiwa. It was their version of the Walkman. It's like Aiwa Super Bass portable cassette player. I loved it, man. I want another one. It's one of those things where it's just like I want to revisit the past just a little bit. I know there's nothing good on the radio. There's no point anymore. But I kind of want one again, just so I can listen to tapes in bed. So with that, we're getting ready to go back to the van again. Give me a second here. But I do want to take a minute to thank the patrons. These are the guys who, they give of their resources to make sure this show comes back every week. Thank you guys so much. Please consider, if you like listening to the show, please consider maybe dropping a nickel or two in the bucket. It really helps a lot. So what I can offer these guys is early access to the show. This is being recorded on Friday night. It usually is, sometimes Saturday. And as soon as it gets done, I put it up for them so that they can get it right away. Everybody else gets it on Monday morning. So they get that, and they also get their names read off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. And they are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, and Darabka. Thank you guys very, very much. All right, with that, boys and girls, let's go back to the van. All right, you ready to party? This is from this morning. So this is a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Friday morning podcast when I knew the weekend was just around the corner. And this is a Friday morning after having an awesome night of playing video games the night before. But I don't want to spoil anything. Stick with me. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Friday morning, everybody. Friday morning at 6:20, and I'm driving to work. It's nice outside. It's a little chilly, but it's eased up an awful lot. I don't know exactly what the temperature is, but I'm going to place it at like 35. You better wear a jacket, but that's really all it takes. No gloves or hat or anything like that. I can live with it. No problems. quite an evening for me last night. I was playing some video games with Alex Swingle, and we finished Fear 3, which was awesome. It's super cool for me to finish a game, and the ending credits start rolling. It's like, yes, I beat another one, because I don't beat many games. I don't see many games all the way to the end. But we beat that one. Didn't take long. We were able to finish the entire game start to finish in under 4 hours, which very short game, Fear 3. Knocked it out, and then we went to the multiplayer modes, like the I mean, I guess we played, playing through the game was a multiplayer mode in and of itself, but like we did the smaller, more arcadey modes where it was like wave-based shooting, and then there was another one that I really liked where we were like running as fast as we could from like a wall that would come and kill you. Almost like an H1Z1 or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has this, how there's this circle that's closing in and you got to run from it. Same kind of deal, except much more linear. Like a combination of that plus waves of computer-controlled monsters. It was good. I liked it. So there was some debate after we finished that. It's like, all right, let's go right into the next game. What are we going to play through now? We went, all right. There was some talk about Sacred 3, or we also have Kane and Lynch 2. Alex was like, let's do Kane and Lynch 2. All right. So I got that installing and I went off to bed. So it looks like it's going to be Kane and Lynch 2 for me, starting probably sometime this weekend, which I'm looking forward to. I got up early this morning and I sat down on my computer knowing that I'm between games now, at least with Mr. Swingle. So just started flipping through my collection, and I came across the original Max Payne, which I didn't know that I had on Steam. To give you some background, I played Max Payne on the PS2 probably at least 11 years ago. It was 2007 this was, so do the math, 12 years ago I guess. And what's funny was I bought the game back then, so I have it on the PS2, and I'm pretty sure I still have it, and I've had it all this time. But I only sat down with it once. I played it one time. It was on a Saturday, and it was before I had kids, so I played it like all day, and I probably got about at least halfway through the game. But I never sat down with it a second time. And it wasn't because I didn't like it. Like, I remember thinking, like, having played it, I remember like a week later thinking, should I go back to it? I don't know. I'm not sure if I remember how to play that game. And I think that was what got me to not go back to it, was I don't know if I know how to play it. So I loaded it up on the PC, and the original Max Payne by now is a very primitive game. It really is. But also very charming. I like that era of video games on the PC. So I loaded it up and I started modeling through the tutorial to see if it was playable. And you can knock the tutorial out in like 5 minutes, but I did it for about 20. And the reason why was because at the end of the tutorial there's a button, a big red button that says Enemy Dispenser. And you press the button and 4 guys just come out from all sides and you can shoot them down. Alright, so I went through the tutorial and I was like, alright, I got a pretty good handle on the controls. Let's hit that button again. And 4 guys would come out and I'd gun them down. Alright, let's do 4 more guys. And I just stayed there, hitting that button over and over and over again, knowing that eventually they'll kill you because you don't get any additional health supplies. You continuously get new ammo from the dead bodies. But that was, I was able to get a hold of the controls pretty quickly, and it ended up feeling pretty fluid. Like, I don't know why I was expecting it to be difficult. It's possible it might control better on the PC, but yeah. So that was the original Max Payne, and I'm looking forward to cracking into the campaign a little bit on nights when Swingle isn't around. There's some weirdness with the sound, though. Like, certain sounds would echo longer than they were supposed to, and certain sounds wouldn't play. So clearly there's some issues running it on Windows 10. Either Windows 10 or perhaps there's some compatibility issues with NVIDIA. But I have to look at the settings, and I have to go through some of the user guides and figure out what people are doing to sort it out. Some games are just that way. That's just the way it is playing on a PC. And at this point, I'm fine with that. Especially if they're, problems that have real solutions. Hey man, some games you just gotta step through a short tutorial before you can get them working. I think it was the original Witcher, where I bought it and I downloaded it, which is a big game, by the way, and I sat down to play it. This is years ago, and I was like, all right, let's play The Witcher. I paid for it, I waited for it to install, and I clicked a button, and the first thing that happened was a pop-up showed up on my computer that was like, your computer does not meet the requirements to play this game. Boom! And I just failed the launch. This is like, uh-oh, that's not good. So I had to step through a tutorial to disable this internal validation check that it was running before launching. It's like, let me decide. All right, just launch the game, and if it runs bad, then I'll deal with it. And the ironic part was, I had to dumb the graphics down pretty far, but the game was absolutely playable, and it didn't look too bad. I mean, at least for the time. So the takeaway is that validation error, telling me my computer wasn't fast enough, it was totally incorrect. It absolutely was fast enough. I don't know. Yeah, so that's it. Sometimes you just gotta look it up, how to disable the tutorial or disable the checks. There's another one that was the same way as Friday the 13th. When I first loaded that up, it was like, you need Punk Buster or something. You need the anti-cheat or something strange like that. And the fix was to open up the native files and create a new folder, a new empty folder inside the game's files that was called anti-cheat or something like that. Somehow fool the program into thinking you had their anti-cheat software. Very silly. I could just imagine somebody who doesn't like PC games, Hey man, PC games are too complicated now. I don't understand. It's just too complicated. This is one we hear a lot, right? I just want to get a console and I just want to turn it on and have it be done. And then the PC guys are like, no, it's not that bad. You just get the thing and it's easy as it's ever been. All right, well, fine. I'll give it a shot. So Friday the 13th is the first game they try. What do you mean I need the anti-cheat? You're the program. You're supposed to get all this sorted out for me. Weren't there developers taking care of this? It's not that complicated. You just got to go into the native files and create something with an identical name to the process that it's looking for. Even though the process doesn't really exist and you don't have the files, you just have to trick the computer into thinking you have them. All right, guy. Not a bad game, though, Friday the 13th. And it's been so long since I installed it, I think if you went and got it now, it might not still have that issue. Sometimes games have issues like that, and they actually do get sorted out. Doesn't happen a lot, but once in a while it happens. The only other example I can think of is Chips Challenge. You guys know that game, Chips Challenge? Most people know it from back in the Windows 3.1 days. It was packed in with the Microsoft Entertainment Pack, along with Jez Ball and Solitaire and stuff like that. Well, Chips Challenge came out on Steam, finally, like maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. And then there was a sequel, Chips Challenge 2, which the developer was like, I made this game 20 years ago, and due to a license dispute, I couldn't put it out. So here it is for the first time on Steam. Chips Challenge 2. It's the same game, just a little more complicated, has a few more tiles, and it has a level editor. I was like, you know what? I am absolutely on board. Let's get Chips Challenge 2. I even paid for the level editor DLC. Because I have children. Children love to be creative. And what's a better way to be creative, in video games than to have like a level designer? I used to love that when I was a kid. Any game that had any sort of level editor was what I was after. So I got Chips Challenge 2 and I got the level editor. And I was good to go, man. And the level editor would just crash. And when I say crash, I mean the program, hang on a second, would shut down. Now, for a level editor to crash on you, that's really bad, right? Because you better have saved, otherwise the level that you've been working on getting just right is going to go in the garbage. And that's what kept happening. And even my son, who was really young at the time, was like, Dad, I don't like this. So when it crashed, I took a screenshot of the error message and I pasted it as artwork in the community hub for that game. And I made the title, Do Not Buy, Frequent Crashing. So that was an example of an error that got fixed pretty fast after I posted that. Not saying I had anything to do with it. I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure the developer just became aware of the crash and took care of it. That was one. The only real other example I can think of like a big issue like that in commercial software where the developer stepped in and really took care of it. I think most of the time, the games that I play are old, like a couple years old. So when I come across something like that, it's already dead. The game's already dead, and it's not. None of those errors are being fixed. All of those kinds of errors that would have been fixed have already been gone over by the time a game comes across my desk. So that was a one-off exception. Yeah, so that's it. I don't know how I got on Chips Challenge level editor, but I played Fear 3 last night. I'm looking forward to playing Kane and Lynch 2, which is weird because Kane and Lynch has been in my library for a while. Not for years and years and years, but it's at least since the last sale. And I haven't touched it. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to play Kane and Lynch 2. It's going to be the next game we're going to play through. So yeah, pretty cool, man. Playing some fun games. I also sat down with the Tiger Score for like a couple of hours yesterday. And I'm working with the Tiger Score, which is... Tiger Score is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. It's a lot of work. This is the second issue that's getting ready to come out in a little over a week on the 2nd of March. So it's the second issue coming out. There's going to be 5 issues, and then after that, we'll see what's going to happen. I don't know. I've committed to 5. And with how far in are we? 14 minutes in? All right. I guess I'll pull the plug here. You know what? One more thing. Let's do this. If I were back in the studio, surrounded by all of the comforts that I enjoy at home, and being in my nice chair, surrounded by my video games and stuff, what would I do? What would I play? Well, there's a number of options right now. Probably Max Payne, because I played Max Payne before I left the house, and I was having a really good time. I was in the tutorial having a really good time, which no other game I can say that about. There's no other game where genuine fun was had in the tutorial. Max Payne stands alone in that category, so I'd probably play Max Payne. There are a few other options, though. I have been enjoying playing the tapes from the... Oh, come on, guy. There we go, yeah. I'm still enjoying going through the cassette tapes that I got in my last thrift store run. Yesterday I put in the, what was it now? Oh man, the best of Elvis Costello and the Attractions. That was what it was. Which I got for 50 cents, and it has a big sticker on it that says play it again for $21. So somebody paid $21 for this tape. Now granted, probably, 20 years ago, but that felt kind of good. Elvis Costello is one of these guys where it's like, I know he's a legend in music and whatever, but I didn't really know much about him. I've had a couple of Elvis Costello tapes in my collection for many years. But it was cool to kind of get an education on somebody everybody seems to know. So that was fun. So part of me would want to go and throw my tapes on and then play something silly or simple, something I can play without having earphones on. Like maybe Chips Challenge 2. I haven't thought about Chips Challenge 2 in quite a long time until telling that story just now. Fun little game. Very much a little game. I think what happened is my kids grew out of it, and then once they grew out of it, I sort of left it alone. I don't think I really bought the Chips Challenge games for me. I think they were more for my children. So, you never know. Some of those kids' games could come back in fashion in my house when the new baby shows up and is a couple years old. Enters that age where they can play video games. Because my daughter just turned 5 and she still plays some of those kiddie games. I introduced her to, Kitty Cat Jigsaw Puzzles, which is like a Steam game, which is like simple mobile like jigsaw puzzle game, but it's on Steam. And she wanted to play on my computer because that's what her brother does. She's like, I want to play on that, Daddy. So okay, but some games like Terraria and stuff are a little too hard for her at her age. So I'm like, you know what, kiddo? I got the perfect games for you. I got Kitty Cat Jigsaw Puzzles, and I've got ABC Coloring Town, which are both like dime store Steam games for little kids that I've had in my collection like forever. And you know what? They hit the mark really hard. She's like, yes, perfect age. I know what I'm supposed to do. I can be a little bit creative and have fun. Great. So, yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in another year, when her problem-solving skills develop a little bit more, she'll get into Chips Challenge. We'll see. I'll get back to you guys on that one in another year. All right, hang on a sec because I don't want to sign off now. I have to get to like a safe spot where I can mess with my phone. There we go. I think we're good now. And with that, boys and girls, I think I'm going to send you guys on back to the studio, and I'll see you once I'm done with my Friday at work. We are back again in Panzer Studios, and I'm getting ready to play the last track of the week. This is from Gurr. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Gurr, Gurr, and the track is called Super Tired. Now, I talked about what I would have listened to. This is a tape I would have listened to. You can get the album for free off of Bandcamp. And the cassette is $5, but be aware it took 2 months for it to show up in my house. Funny story behind that. We're going to catch it after the track. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Going on.
Gure on Tiger Claw Radio. And man, they are an excellent example of what's wrong with buying cassette tapes off of Bandcamp. And I'll tell you why. I bought that tape from a group called Drug Party Records. Okay? Or was it Drug Party Records or Drug Party Tapes? I'm going to look it up. We'll get to that in a second. But let me tell you, I was excited. The music sounded really good. And the cassette was $5, which, by the way, if you don't buy tapes, most tapes, if you're buying a newly manufactured tape and it's a quality band, expect to pay like $10 to $13. All right? It's more than I thought it would be worth it when I started collecting tapes, but I started buying the cheaper ones, and I started doing mixtape exchange, and I got a few of these newly manufactured tapes, and I gotta say, those are the ones that are getting the play in my stereo. So this is a newly manufactured tape for $5. So I was like, all right, you know what? Sign me up. I ordered Gure, which I thought was awesome, and I ordered another one called the Slow Mutants, because I figured $5, right? I'll buy two, then they can double it up, send them together. They'll save on the shipping, so they'll make a little bit more off the bigger order, and I get more of the tapes for a nice cheap price. I thought it worked out well. So a couple months went by and the tapes never showed up. Now the thing you have to understand about Bandcamp is that you don't have the protection that you have on eBay. On eBay, if the item never comes, you can get old brother eBay to help you out, get your refund. You don't really have anything like that on Bandcamp. All you have is there's a button which will automatically generate an email that goes out to them that says, hey, can I please have a status update on my order? And in a lot of cases, that's all you need. But in this case, I sent them emails, and I looked them up on their website, and I was like, hey, I don't mind waiting as long as it takes, but can you please, let me know you got my order? Is it coming? What's the status? And I got nothing. These Drug Party Records guys, to this day, I never got any confirmation, or I never got any sort of anything, right? And finally, I was like, all right. So I looked up Gure to see if they were still around. And sure enough, they were. It was these two girls from Germany who make music. And they, after this album that you just heard came out, they continued to make music. They got a little softer. They got a little bit less, I think, punky. That song that we just heard, that's got a punk sound for sure. But that edge kind of rounded off a little bit in their later music. But they were still around. So I emailed them directly. I was like, hey, I ordered your tape off of Drug Party Records. Do you know if they're still in business? And they wrote me back, and they were like, we'll reach out to them and see what's up. So after that, the status of my order was flipped over to shipped, finally, and then it got here. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but you got to understand with these Bandcamp tapes, the prices on a lot of the tapes are really cheap. And yes, it's independently produced music, which I absolutely love, but you're dealing with real people, and a lot of the people can be very, very flaky. Another example is the Wilt Chamberlain band. They're a group that makes surf rock. It's all instrumental, and it's surf music. It's really good music. I ordered a cassette tape from them, but having this experience with Gure, I shot them an email first. I was like, hey guys, you got this album out. It's like 3 years old, but I still want to buy one. Do you still have tapes? Is this still an operation I can do business with? They emailed me back right away. They were like, absolutely, man. Thanks for checking in. Go ahead and cast your order. We're all set. So I went ahead. I ordered one of their tapes before Christmas, and it still hasn't shown up. And February is almost over. So I shot them an email last week, and I was like, hey, guys, no rush, but I haven't seen any tape yet. Did you make it out? They wrote me back. They were like, oh, man, I didn't realize that hadn't got to you. And then they asked me what my T-shirt size was. They were like, yeah, we'll send you something else extra along with it. So, nice guys, doing the best they can, but be prepared to wait and be prepared to have to follow up on your order if you buy tapes from Bandcamp. I think the exceptions to that rule are certain specific record labels on Bandcamp that are highly reputable. And one of those highly reputable labels is Business Casual. Their tapes are expensive, It's now $12.50 to order one in the U.S. where I'm located for one of those tapes. It's up from $12. The shipping went up 50 cents, so now it's $12.50. But everybody who buys those says the same thing. They show up right on time, and you never have to follow up. They just show up, which is pretty cool. All right, so that's enough about the tapes and the music and ordering stuff from Bandcamp. We are going to get to I almost said the Vancast. We're going to get to the fail bag, all right? We're 52 minutes in, and we're going to go see what you guys have to say. Now, you know what the story is. It's just me here, and it's just you. Let's talk. Let's have some interaction, all right? This is you have your seat here in the Panzer Studios, and a lot of time when I'm doing my thing, I like to imagine you guys hanging out here in the studio with me, right? Especially in the van, doing the van casts, because those van casts, when it's like Tuesday morning and I'm coming back from a long weekend, and you can kind of hear it in my voice. I was feeling pretty good that morning, but I was definitely a little quieter. I was definitely not quite there yet. It felt good for us to hang out. Well, you can give it back. Whatever you got going, just let me know. You can leave comments on YouTube. If you know me personally, you can send me an email, or you can any other way you can get a hold of me. But those are the two best ways. So we're gonna head over to YouTube, and we're gonna check out the comments, because that seems to be everyone's favorite place to get a hold of me. All right, you guys got to give me a second. I had YouTube open, but I was watching the latest meme review from PewDiePie, the one with what was it now? Elon Musk. I got about halfway through that, and I realized, whoa, this is 20 minutes long, and I just hit pause and kind of left it there. All right, we got a few. We got some from Mecha Menace. We got some from Desm. Got a little something from Alex Swingle. All right. My boy, Alex Swingle. Oh, we got some oldies, too. Sendu, my man. If you... I worry that I talk to Sendu live on the air, and he doesn't hear it for months at a time. So I got to make sure and reach out to him so that he knows I'm replying. But we'll start with Sendu. He left one on... I have to look up what the episode numbers are. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, this one's from 266. And he writes, the YouTube search autocorrected to Tiger Claw Radical. I hope that brings you some joy. And you know what? It sure does. I always like to hear crazy stuff that the autocorrect does, especially on YouTube. And then on 267, 267 was the MagFest one. It was January 6th was when it was posted. So it was immediately after I came back from MagFest. And he writes, I wanted to go, but I was broke after moving. The plans just didn't align for me. And you know what, dude? I completely understand. I'm sorry you didn't make it out. You were definitely missed. But MagFest comes every year. And you know what? I'm game next year. So if you want to make it a thing, I would say hit me up in August. August is when the tickets go on sale. That's when I start hitting up my buddy to see if he wants to go as well. And I start ringing doorbells. Hey, man, you coming to MagFest this year? Hey, man, you coming to MagFest this year? So I'm really looking forward to next year, because I want to see those chip spaces again. I want to see those live chip tunes, because I got to say, it's now the end of February. That was almost 2 months ago I saw that, and it left a huge, huge impact. It really did. So, as much as I know you don't hear these until way late, I do appreciate the comments. It's good to hear from you, brother. Let's see what Alex Swingle writes. Now, Swingle's talking about the very last episode that came out. Now, you might remember last week I was going on and on about an old game, and I couldn't remember what the name of the game was. And I went on and on. And you know what? I've forgotten what it is already. I'm going to look up the name of it now, because I feel like it bears repeating. I know it has the word dark in the title. I should just read his comment, because he says it in there, doesn't he? Wow, that's really dumb of me. Darklands, that's the name of it. And he says, game on cover is Darklands by Microprose. I only know because I sold that game about 2 months ago. You may kiss my butt now. You know what, Swingle? You're a very smart person. You know a lot of trivia, especially about video games and their worth on the secondhand market. But I'm going to decline your offer. I will say it's really cool that you were able to sell that game. I'm interested in how much you sold it for, if you don't mind me asking. But yeah, definitely thanks for that. I don't know what it is about Darklands. I just get overwashed with Alzheimer's disease, and it doesn't stick in my head. And that makes me legitimately frightened for my future. Because Alzheimer's, I don't know. I think I would rather have Alzheimer's than go blind. Going blind is my true worst fear. I would rather be buried alive than go blind. Because if you're buried alive, at least you know that, hey, I'm going to suffocate and I'm going to be dead in a few minutes. And that'll be the end of it. Whereas if you're blind, you have to learn to live in a new reality. And that absolutely terrifies me to my core. To the point where I've spent time just walking around my house in the middle of the night with all the lights off and my eyes closed. Because I feel like I'm so frightened of it that one day this is absolutely going to happen to me. And I had the theory that maybe that's the reason why I like the cassette tapes. Because if I were blind, I could still rummage through my cassette tapes. Like, I can't see what these are with my eyes closed. I can kind of feel like I can tell what... I can tell which one this is. This must be Elvis Costello, because Elvis Costello on the Attractions was... the best of Elvis Costello was printed in this weird case that didn't have pegs in it. All right, so there's that one. Some of them have like sharp edges and some of them don't. But even if I can't tell what they are, I can feel well enough to put this in a machine and hit play. And then once it starts playing, I'll know immediately. So I think cassette tapes are probably, at least among the retro formats of music, the best format I can think of for blind people. So now you know a little bit more about old CF. That is my worst fear on planet Earth, is going blind. I can't read books or play video games as blind. The only video games I can think of that a blind person can play would be Blindside, which is that 3D the game where you're in a 3D space and you can only tell where you're going by the sound. And if you were to get a text adventure with an interpreter that actually reads it. I saw that in the movie Get Lamp. There was blind people that were playing like Zork. Because the computer would just read it off and they could just type back to the computer. which fascinated me. Because there was one guy who was like, I don't like it that you need a light source in the Zork games. Because the game is like, now you're in pitch darkness. And I'm like, I don't care. That was a truly awesome moment in cinematic history. That's from the movie Get Lamp. Which if you like any sort of movies that are related to video games, that is a really awesome one. It's a documentary based on text adventures, and they got some really cool stuff in there. So that was Alex Swingle. Thanks for writing in, man. It's good to hear from you, brother. Then we got a What's on My Shelf. Mecha Menace. By the way, Mecha Menace, I got your invite on Discord. I see you. I get on there right now a lot to play Quake and a lot to play Dead by Daylight. But the next round does have a Discord server, which is like our little, alcove meeting place. So I can shoot you the invite to that if you want to jump on the next round. If not, if you just want to pal around with me, keep low profile, we can play some games, do whatever. I'm interested to know what you're into. Maybe we can get you on the air. You're another one. I've never had. I don't think I've ever spoken to you in real time. I just had a little text conversation with Death Adder for the first time this past week. It's the first time I've spoken to him. I caught him on was it Discord? I can't remember if it was Discord or Steam, but I had a brief text conversation with him. It's been years. It's been years. So don't let it be years with you, man. Hit me up if you see me online. But I didn't actually read his comment. He writes, I associate... You know what? Oh, hang on a second. Just before I read this, I'm going to make sure that everything's being recorded right. I think we're coming through okay. I was worried that a bunch of static was coming through, because that happened to me a couple times before. I would record for an hour and then it was just static. All right, let's get to the comment. He writes, I associate synthwave with a darker mood, with a darker mood and synth loops that flow together, break apart, and sample other media. Sort of like hip hop, but more synth and less rhymes. It's like 80s DX7 keyboardist got control of a song and never let go. Perturbator and their album I Am the Night is my prime example. I recommend giving it a listen here. Just be sure your ears are wearing a condom because they're about to get wet. All right, I'm going to load this up. I'm not going to play this on the air because I have no idea who this is or where they stand with their music being played. Oh, what do we got here? All right, give me 1 second here. All right, so I did check out the album a little bit, and I wanted to download it and play it on the air. But I could see this being, I would also qualify this as synthwave, but I don't really think it's the mood, the dark mood that makes it the synthwave. It's the synth, isn't it? I mean, you are the one between the two of us that has actual, you have a SoundCloud, right? Is Mecha Menace saying this? Yeah, it is. Actually, do you have a SoundCloud, Mecha Menace? I don't know, dude. I know Desm has one. All right. I don't know that much about synth music. I kind of feel like it's just the use of synth, and I usually use that term to differentiate it, like between chiptunes, because chiptunes uses old sound chips, and then vaporwave is actually taking the loops and making the loops into the music itself, and anywhere in between, I would consider falling somewhere into synthwave. Now, it could be that I usually have a picture in my head of synth pop. And that's what I think of, and that's very different. But this album, I recognize this album from cruising around on Bandcamp. I've come across this one before. There we go. Now it's finally letting me save it. We'll download that. Maybe we'll go over that next week if I can remember. But let's be honest. But when I sit down to record next week's TCR, I'm not going to remember any of this. Look at that. They're selling compact discs. That's something I don't get. Why do Bandcamp bands do that? They sell CDs. Is anybody nostalgic for CDs? I can see why you would buy them because they are the cheapest form of music that you can buy. I got a couple of CDs now that I purchased recently. I'm looking at the Spinal Tap album, Break Like the Wind, which was like their big reunion album in the 90s. They came back and made that. And then I got another one from the Violent Femmes. But I have these two albums because they were $2 a piece, and that's why. Not because I'm nostalgic over CDs. I'm not buying newly manufactured CDs. Could be alone on that one. I don't know. They seem like really talented, and I hope they're successful. So, best of luck on that one. Looks like they manufactured 2,000 of these CDs, and there's only 2 remaining. How much do they want for it? $13 plus $5 shipping. No, thank you. Give me a record. Give me a 7-inch for that price, or at least a cassette tape. I don't know. The CDs don't appeal to me anymore. And there was a time when all I could think about was buying new CDs. My head, look, when I was a teenager, right, I was 17 years old. I was out living on my own. I didn't have any money. For a good part of that, I didn't even have a TV. But I did have a way to play CDs. And all I could think about was getting new CDs. That was all I wanted in the world. I would walk, I would leave my house and walk to the mall with no car, with the money that I made, in my crappy job, just to buy CDs. And that was huge. CDs were all that mattered in those days. But those days are long gone now. Cool looking band, though. Or cool looking album. I guess you can't really call it a band. It's just one dude. It's weird that there aren't bands anymore. Have you noticed that? There's so few, bands now. Now it's just this guy who uses Pro Tools. Why even bother having a band name like Perturbator? You can just be like, this is Gary. I'm Gary. Buy my CD. It's called Gary. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being overly critical. Was that all, the whole comment? Yeah. I wanted to play it on the air, guys, but I had trouble getting the download going. But thanks, Mecha Menace, especially for the Bandcamp link, because I'm loving consuming as much as I possibly can off of Bandcamp right now, especially albums that are name your price. So thanks for that. Desm, Desm responded to that with another artist I would recommend is Power Glove. That's a name I've heard before. Let's look them up. I have a feeling that I'm going to recognize an album cover or two on this one. Are they on Bandcamp? Power Glove from Melbourne, Australia. Electronic music. Soundtrack/VHS/Electron. They want $7 for their album. I'm sorry. Sorry, Power Glove. Oh, well, maybe it's just this one. What else they have? That's episode 2. That came out in 2015. Came out in 2015. They're still charging $7 for it. All right, well, let's give them a try. Hang on 1 second, guys. All right, that's good. That's good music. That's good music. Can't play it here because I'm not paying. Well, it's Australian dollars. What is that in US? What's $7 Australian dollars in US dollars? Right now the conversion is $5. $4.99. Okay. That's for a 7-song album. All right. Now what about their EP? That's $4 Australian dollars, which translates to $2.85 US. All right. To put it in perspective, it sounds an awful lot like the music that I bought from Glowmag, which I haven't played on the show yet. I got to do that. Glowmag put out a 2-cassette tape box, and it's all his theme music that he made in the 80s when he was making soundtracks for low-budget horror movies. That's what Power Glove sounds like to me. Power Glove has got a lot more polish. I can hear the hip-hop influence. I can hear all the vocals and that stuff. None of that you're going to find on Glowmag. But the vibe, just the vibe that's in the core of it, I can draw that parallel. That's the good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'm thoroughly digging the recommendations. And Mecha Menace shoots back. Desm, exactly, Desm. Mega Drive is another top synthwave group. Ooh. Mega Drive, I Am the Program. Alright, so there's a YouTube link there before I check that out. Mega Drive. Please be free. Please be free. Mega Drive. It's loading. Singles EP. Please be free. Come on now. It's loading. I'm holding my breath. Buy digital album, $3. Come on. I've been ruined. I know I'm spoiled. I know I'm terribly spoiled, guys. But let's give it a try. All right, I'm going to pause the recording. All right, that's also very good. This is good. Okay. I get uptight about the fact that it costs money, and then I hear the music, and then I come around really quickly. All right. This sounds like something I'm not familiar with this name, this artist, but it sounds like something I've come across before. I think recently over on Groupies, there was a bundle of albums that sounded a lot like this. It was the 80s guy on YouTube, and it was an album curated by the 80s guy. And this might have been on it, although I'd have to double check. And I just looked at Groupies, and it wasn't there. So I think that whole album just got missed. And that leads me to think there must be ways to bundle albums together, to buy albums that are bundled. Some sort of better way to do this than Bandcamp. We want to charge money for it, but let's find some way to give you a deal. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of music bundles on Bandcamp I've come across, or not Bandcamp, on Groupies like that I've come across that look interesting. They've got one right now, Chiptune plus Charity 14. And we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums in the $2 tier. And in the $4 tier, you get an additional 5 albums. Of the names, I recognize Bitshifter. Closed System Blues. I've never heard of the album, but Bitshifter has been one from way back in the day. I don't know any of the other names. Noobstar, Jellica, Rainbow Dragon Eyes, Blitz Lunar. Could be good. Could be good. I might have to check that out. That's over on Groupies right now. GROUPEES.com. That was fun. Thanks for the comments, guys. And then Desm writes, man, those rail shooters are such great arcade-style fun. I recently picked up Sin and Punishment for the Wii, and it's super addictive. All right, Desm, how did you recently pick up Sin and Punishment for the Wii? Is that something you can buy a disc for? Because I was always under the impression that Sin and Punishment was a Nintendo 64 game that was available on the Wii Virtual Console, which is now closed. So I'm going to take a look and see how much it would be to also get that. Sin and Punishment Wii. Bear with me, boys. Sin and Punishment Star Successor, Nintendo Wii game, $15, $14.30. I could do that. I want to play a light gun game. I've been talking about it for weeks. I've got some. I got to get something hooked up and play again. I've got to do it. I don't know. I'll find a way somehow. And with that, 1 hour and 12 minutes in. Thanks for listening, guys. Whatever's brought you here, I appreciate the time you spent with me. Time is indeed the greatest, most valuable currency. So I appreciate what you spent here, hanging out in Panzer Studios, talking about some games, talking about music, just having a good time, doing whatever. And as you move into your week, I hope you hit it hard and make it a good one. And whatever happens, I want you to know that I'm rooting for you. See you guys next week.